is a new dawn in the Middle East as Israel, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates have all signed the Abraham Accords today on the White House lawn. Now, we have this from the Daily Mail, and this is a historic peace deal. I mean, this is something that growing up, we always thought that there was no end to the conflict between the Arab states and Israel ever to be seen. We just thought it was a conflict that we were just going to have to live with as humanity. And while this certainly isn't the end of the line, this certainly doesn't solve all of the problems, it is a huge step forward, and there are indications that is more progress to be made in the pipeline. So let's go ahead and check this out from the Daily Mail. Donald Trump hails dawn of a new Middle East as leaders of Israel, UAE, and Bahrain sign peace deal at the White House and says he believes Saudi Arabia will also recognize Israel. That would be huge because Saudi Arabia has always been opposed to the Israeli state. So President Donald Trump on Tuesday hailed the dawn of a new Middle East when he presided over the signing of historic diplomatic deals between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, in a deal designed to boost his reputation as a statesman. You know, do they really have to do that? Do they really have to say that they know what it's designed to do? I mean, can Trump not just do anything that isn't self-serving? I mean, sure, there is always a self-serving element to politics. But to say that the deal was designed flatly to boost his reputation as a statesman is underselling how monumental of a achievement this is. I mean, this is something that we have tried to get to happen for decades upon decades, administration after administration after administration, failure, failure, failure. And this is why we love Donald Trump. He approaches things differently. He negotiates with people differently. He gets different results because of it. And, you know, it's amazing how after how many administrations of establishment politicians, establishment presidents have tried to get this to work. But I've got a feeling, you know, then we have an outsider like Trump come in, and towards the end of his first term, he's able to get these deals worked out. It almost makes you wonder whether the establishment was ever truly trying to generate peace, or whether they were just loving that sweet, sweet cash from the Middle East war machine. You know, that's not an accusation, but it is a ponderance. So, back to the article. We're here this afternoon to change the course of history. After decades of division and conflict, we mark up the dawn of a new Middle East. Thanks to the great courage of the leaders of these three countries, we make a major stride towards a future in which people of all faiths and backgrounds can live together in peace and prosperity, Trump said in the remarks. The president said, more nations will follow suit in signing the accord that normalizes relations between the Jewish state and the Arab nations. Later in the day, as he left the White House to travel to Philadelphia, he said he believes Saudi Arabia would too. Now, Saudi Arabia might be one of the toughest ones to get to come on board, although we have seen some changes in Saudi Arabia over the course of the Trump administration. I think it was 297 members of the Saudi ruling class were arrested early into Trump's administration. And I think, I don't want to get too much into details that I don't know too much of, but I believe that Saudi Arabia, they had some very shady financing going on in terms of connections to deep state actors and certain things of that nature. So, I don't want to be conspiratorial, and I also don't want to talk on things that I'm not an expert on, but I do think that I do believe, to my best understanding, that when Trump came into office, we started to see some shifts of some shifting of the tides in Saudi Arabia. So, the president said, okay, I believe Saudi Arabia would too. These agreements prove that the nations of the region are breaking free from the failed approaches of the past. Yes. And who was able to bring a new approach to the table? These weren't signed in Israel. These weren't signed in Bahrain. These were not signed in the United Arab Emirates. They're signed at the White House, where the occupant is Donald Trump. So good on Trump. And again, this is not the end-all be-all, but this is a huge step in a direction that we never thought we would see in our lifetimes. So today's signing sets history on a new course, and there will be other countries very, very soon that will follow these great leaders, the president said. Well, let's hope he's right, and I don't think he would be saying that if he didn't believe that they're very close to deals with other nations. And it says later, we'll get into certain things later. I don't want to jump the gun on any of this. So Trump emphasized the historic nature of the agreement. Today, the world sees that they're choosing cooperation over conflict, friendship over enmity, prosperity over poverty, and hope over despair. They are choosing a future in which Arabs and Israelis, Muslims and Jews, and Christians could all live together, pray together, and dream together side by side in harmony, community, and peace, he said. These people need to get a copy editor and learn where to put the where to put the commas. I'm surprised I didn't get more tripped up over that than I was. Earlier, he described it as this is peace in the Middle East without blood all over the sand. Yeah, and I seem to remember when Trump was first elected and you had everybody saying that he was going to start World War III, that everybody was terrified about Donald Trump having access to the nuclear codes and all that kind of stuff. Yet, Trump is the first president since Jimmy Carter not to engage us in any new conflicts and is in fact bringing troops home from Afghanistan, Iraq. He said something about bringing 12,000 troops home from Germany, which I'd have to look into a little bit more. I didn't even realize we had that many troops in Germany still, but it probably has to do with NATO and defense against Russia, which, we're essentially footing, I think, 71% of the bill for. But again, Trump went after that and said, you guys need to pay your fair share. We're defending you. You guys need to pay for some of the defense that we're offering you. And I think it's like 2% of GDP. So then they show a bunch of pictures here of the signing, the agreement. We have the three leaders here, and I mean, they seem to be pretty happy there. You see smiles on all of their faces. None of them look like they were forced to the table or that any of them are getting the short stick. They all seem pretty genuinely excited to be signing this agreement together and to be moving forward. We see them all standing there. I love the smile on it. That's Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan Abraham, and that's from United Arab Emirates. He looks genuinely happy. They all look genuinely happy. Trump's face is just, I mean, you gotta love Trump's face. It's one of those faces that it's hard to take seriously, but then you see the gravity of what he's doing, and it's just like, man, this guy is awesome. And see, he's passing the pen along. They're all happy and clapping and they're celebrating this. I mean, this doesn't seem like anybody was dragged to the table, or again that anybody is being worked over in this accord. And so we actually have the declarations here, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but if you look up this article from the Daily Mail, and read it yourself, I'm sure you can find it online very easily. Or you can just pause the video and read it here yourself because I've left it up long enough. But read it in the voice of Donald Trump, and it almost sounds like this was written by Donald Trump himself. And you can see all the signatures, and of course Donald Trump's famous super angular signature. So Trump, speaking as he left the White House, was asked if Saudi Arabia would join. It is the home of Islam's two holiest places and has been implacably opposed to Israel since its foundation. But Trump said, I spoke with the King of Saudi Arabia. I do think they will come in. Yes, I do. This is a very big and historic moment. And they go on to talk a little bit about how Saudi Arabia kind of requires a two-state solution with Palestine. And that is one thing that this accord does not deal with, the Palestinian issue. So I think Palestine might be a sticking point for Saudi Arabia, but I think, again, if there's anybody who can overcome that hurdle, who can get some sort of situation figured out, maybe even that includes the Palestinians. I don't think it's going to be a two-state solution. I don't think that's going to be in the cards. But if there's anybody that can work this out, it's Donald Trump. I mean, the art of the deal. This is him. This is the art of the deal in action right here. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the agreement will bring economic benefits to the region, and it could end the Arab-Israeli conflict. And I think that could be an understated part of this article here, is the economic benefits that the regions of UAE and Bahrain and Israel will all see. You're going to see other Arab nations that are not seeing quite as much of the economic benefit, and they start seeing that sweet, sweet green that the peace can bring. And that might end up being a deciding factor in a lot of these nations deciding whether to come onto this accord or not. So the blessings of peace we make today will be enormous. First of all, because this peace will eventually expand to include other Arab states, and ultimately it can end the Arab-Israeli conflict once and for all, he said. I mean, again, never in my lifetime did I think I would see this. Second, because the great economic benefits of our partnership will be felt throughout the region, and they will reach every one of our citizens. And third, because this is not only a peace between the leaders, it is a peace between the people. Now, let's hope that sticks and is not just polish. You know, let's hope that the people of these nations can also get over whatever ethnic differences that they have. Let's hope that they can follow in the footsteps of their leaders, and their leaders can actually convince them and lead them towards that peaceful change. So United Arab Emirates Foreign Minister Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan said that the deal was a sign of the change of heart taking place in the Middle East. And I think this is huge. I think this is a very important thing to point out. The UAE Foreign Minister is talking about a broader change of heart that is taking place in the Middle East, where they're tired of the war. They're tired of the conflict. They're tired of the bloodshed. And over what? So they said that we're already witnessing a change of heart in the Middle East, a change that will send hope around the world. And what's so it's sending hope everywhere. I mean, I feel hopeful even just seeing this. And what's so funny is that we had Barack Obama run on this whole platform of hope and change, and we saw none of it. You know, we saw no increase in hope. We saw no change for the positive. Barack Obama continued bombing the Middle East just ad nauseum. I think he dropped over 22,000 bombs in the Middle East, or 22,000 drone strikes, one or the other. Because he was an establishment guy. He was the same old mode of operation. He sold us on hope and change. But of course, like with everything with the establishment, which is moving this progressive leftward shift, it's all a bait and switch. But then you get Trump, who runs on Make America Great Again. And what did he do over the first 3 years of his presidency? He made America great again, despite anything that the media would say, despite anything that the leftist establishment would say. He made America great again. And then in his fourth year, as the Democrats have tried to undo all of the greatness that he's brought to America, they tried to crash the economy with the COVID lockdowns. They tried to disrupt all of the peace by promoting and bailing out these rioters who are agitating our country. They're trying to destroy everything that Trump ran on. Well, now he is fulfilling Obama's promise of hope and change as well. So I don't know how anybody could not vote for Donald Trump at this point. I mean, you have to be able to see through the cracks of the narrative that's borne out from the establishment politicians and the establishment media. At this point, they are so unable to keep their record straight. They're so, they're one way on this thing and another way on the other, all because it's against Trump. And they won't even give Trump a win on this. You have to be able to look at it and say, what the hell is wrong with these people? And then look into it further and realize that Donald Trump has been the answer to so many problems. So each of the four leaders signed four copies of the Abraham Accords, one in English, one in Hebrew, and two in Arabic. And I think that's pretty cool that they do it in their shared language, or not shared languages, their separate languages, in a shared joint peace accord. During the signing, the leaders also signed a treaty of peace, diplomatic relations, and full normalizations, and a declaration of peace, three copies, each language again. This is what I was laughing about a second ago. During the signing, the leaders helped one another find the proper place on the document to ink their names. There's something about that sentence that just puts a smile on my face. I mean, it's almost... Is it wrong to say that that's kind of adorable? I mean, to see these nations who had so much animosity between them, between Israel and the Arab nations. Now they're sitting there helping each other out on where to sign the accord so that they can bring peace and get over all their past trouble. It's almost like it's showing that the peace is already in place before the ink has even dried. Them helping them show where to put the ink so that it can dry and they can get this deal done. I don't know. I just love that sentence. It just puts a smile on my face. In their sit down, Trump gave Netanyahu a golden key to the White House as a token of his appreciation. So I don't know why I'm yawning today. I do sometimes when I'm talking a lot. I don't know what it is. You have a key to the hearts of the Jewish people, Netanyahu told the president in response. The president said that more Gulf nations were preparing to sign similar deals to the one being inked on the South Lawn today, but he did not offer hints on which those nations might be. He says, we're very far down the road with 5 additional countries. So we already have 2 that have signed the accords, and he has 5 more that are already very far down the road and joining this. Could you imagine, in the course of a couple months, Israel signing peace accords with 7 Arab nations? It's mind-boggling. And it's I mean, you really got to put the credit where the credit is due. I mean, sure, all of these leaders deserve credit, too, for coming to the table and signing this. But do you really think this would have happened without a certain American in the White House facilitating the deal? I don't think it would. I don't believe that it would. I don't believe it would have been possible. So we have more pictures of the event. I like this UAE guy. There's just something about the way he carries himself, and he always seems. I don't know. I don't know anything about him, so maybe he's done things that are monstrous. I have no idea. I don't know. There's something likable about the way he presents himself, though. Oh yeah, and then so this is what was so ridiculous. They had to go. They put a whole paragraph in here. Or not a whole paragraph, a whole section of the article about how row after row of white chairs were on the South Lawn Tuesday morning. Sorry, I can't read right now. Lined up together with no social distancing between them, and a few in the crowd wore masks. And they went on to talk about the masks and all that business. Get over it, guys. Guys, COVID is done. Kill that narrative. Bury it. Just get it gone. Nobody's interested in it anymore. So it also talks about the president has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for his administration's work on the deal. And then he goes on to say, Trump says, no matter what you do with some of the fake news, doesn't make any difference. This one is great. This one's sort of interesting. Sort of interesting. This is insanely interesting. And I don't say this in a braggadocious way, but I get nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize twice last week on 2 different deals. The other one was the Kosovo and Serbia, which was another huge deal. Another thing that, we don't really hear much about that region, Serbia, Kosovo, the whole, I think it was former Yugoslavia that they were all part of. But back in the 90s, the wars in that nation were front and center. And they've kind of gone by the wayside because it's not as strategic of a region for America. But to bring together, they were just the hatred between the different ethnicities in that region, the Albanians, the the Albanians in Kosovo, the Serbians, and the Bosnians, and all of that region, is just as vitriolic as the relationships between Israel and the Arab states. And so to see that Trump is getting these deals done, and they even specifically thank Trump for getting the deal done. It wouldn't have happened without him. He goes, but I got nominated for that and this. In this case, Israel, it wasn't even on the nightly news. They won't give Trump a single win. If you were to look at the media, they would say that Trump's win-loss column is somewhere around 0, 0, next to ticking towards infinity in the loss column. When really it's quite the opposite. Because they are the establishment, and Trump is representing a new guard, an abolishment of the establishment. And they hate him for that. And they haven't been able to figure out how to keep pace with the hearts and minds of America when all of you guys are coming to people like me and others who are on YouTube, independent voices, giving our own commentary on things, where we don't have corporate interests at stake. But we do have access to all of the information and more of a willingness to look at that information. So, anyways, it goes on to say, a lot of people said when President Trump was elected that he'd be bringing war and chaos, but what he's bringing today is peace. Yeah, they were so afraid that Trump would be this wild madman in the office, not understanding that Trump is not the guy that tells you everything you want to hear and then does everything you don't want. Or he's not the guy that tells you everything you want to hear, then turns around and does everything you don't want him to do. That's the establishment. Trump will tell you the things you don't want to hear, but then will fight to do the things you want him to do. That's the man. That's a leader. That's a leader. That is a transparent leader who is willing to tell you some of the things that you're not going to like. But then he'll also turn around and fight for the things that we want done. Where instead, from the establishment, all we get is lip service, and then we get shady backroom deals where they enrich themselves and then walk away leaving us with the rubble. So this picture is, this article is just chock full of, I don't know that they needed this many pictures of the event, but, and it went on to, okay, so it went on to talk right here. I didn't highlight this. The last point that I want to make is that other Arab countries believed to be close to the deal, or believed to be close to recognizing Israel, include Oman, Sudan, and Morocco. So we those might be some of the other 5 countries that they're further down the road with. So there are critics to this deal, and of course they talk about the Palestinians and all that. But at the end of the day, this is a huge step forward. It doesn't address everything. We can't expect it to address everything. To do so would just be unrealistic. But it is a massive step forward. So good for Trump. Anyways, guys, that's the video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button. I need all the stats I can get. I'm always fighting against the algorithm, being a pro-Trump account. Also, subscribe to the channel. Share this video with your friends. Let them know what Trump is doing. Not what the media says he's doing or what they're hiding from what he's doing. Also, don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Parler at Ram Thorburn. Also, there are links to my Subscribestar, Patreon, and PayPal down in the description below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.